Have a right to stand
I said
and represent
sit
my
down.
clients.
If you want to fight, let's go out back and I'll just beat
Let's go
your
out
ass.
Hello there, Your Honor. I wanna say I'm sorry for the things I've done.
This is James Palmer, age 48, who is carrying 2 concealed pistols and a rifle. He's searching for Judge Gary Cottrell, who made a ruling against him in his divorce and custody case with his ex-wife. Pausing to examine his weapon, Palmer is just a short distance from Cottrell's office. Luckily, the judge isn't present today, but 2 of his assistants, Teresa Armour and Vicky Jones, are inside the office. In the chaos, Jones is injured by a gunshot to her leg as Armour manages to escape. Palmer's decision to spare her life is evident as he abandons his plan upon realizing that Judge Cottrell is absent. Meanwhile, Teresa Armour flees, racing towards the lobby stairs. Seeking refuge, she disappears into an office. Unbelievably, Palmer follows her closely, armed and dangerous. However, instead of continuing his pursuit, he chooses to take the stairs leading to the exit. Within the office, the others are now fully aware of the dire situation unfolding, alerting the authorities about the active shooter in the building. Van Buren police officer David Passon sits in the police cruiser, rushing to the designated location. Meanwhile, Palmer is seen exiting the courthouse. Notably, he seems to have taken off his outer clothing. Palmer unleashes a barrage of gunfire towards a passing police officer, who manages to avoid serious harm but sustains minor injuries. The situation escalates rapidly as additional police officers arrive on the scene. In a matter of moments, the peaceful hamlet transforms into a chaotic scene reminiscent of the Wild West.
Officers eventually hit Palmer.
Officers manage to hit Palmer with their gunfire, surrounding the gunman as the situation unfolds. Eventually, Palmer succumbs to his injuries in the hospital. Inside the courthouse, EMTs work on treating Vicky Jones's gunshot wound, and fortunately, no one else is harmed during the exchange of gunfire. In the aftermath of this terrifying incident, the court takes immediate action to bolster security measures. Metal detectors are now in place, and a police deputy is stationed at the front door to prevent such incidents from happening again.
Charges assault and resisting.
This is Republican defender Andrew Weinstock and his client. They face Judge John Murphy. The judge's voice fills the room. Due to the delayed court schedule, Judge Murphy requests the defendant to give up the right to a speedy trial. Weinstock, the attorney, is standing firm, and tensions are escalating.
If I had a rock, I would throw it at you right now.
You know,
Stop pissing me off. Just sit down. I'll take care of it. I don't need your help.
No,
Sit
you know
down.
what? I'm the public defender. I have a right to be here, and I have a right to
I
stand
said
and represent
sit
my
down.
clients.
If you want to fight, let's go out back and I'll just beat
Let's go
your
out
ass.
They move to a corridor behind the courthouse, hidden from the cameras. Shockingly, a violent altercation unfolds between them. But then, the judge comes back, alone. Judge Murphy just continues where he left off.
Your choices, considering there's probably going to be a changeover in personnel, are setting it for trial June 9th, or if you were wanting to waive speedy, we would set it for July 15th.
I would like to get it done as fast as possible.
That doesn't help me.
The Florida Judicial Qualifications Commission is looking into the incident involving Judge John Murphy. He's accused of threatening violence and getting into a physical fight with an assistant public defender. The case reaches the Florida Supreme Court, which orders his immediate suspension and permanent removal. Additionally, Andrew Weinstock, the public defender, resigns from his position later on.
Тебе решение суда понятно?
This is 18-year-old Leonid Greiser, who is currently standing trial in Moscow, Russia, for the murder of his sister, Aradia Quarrel. Greiser claims that he received instructions from Satan to take the life of his 21-year-old sister. whom he brutally stabbed multiple times. Today, Greiser finds himself inside the Sherbinski courthouse, confined within a glass enclosure. This precautionary measure, uncommon in many jurisdictions, is employed in Russia to ensure the safety of individuals involved in the trial and to minimize the risk of violent behavior or potential escape attempts by dangerous offenders.
Or possibly even escaping, which is exactly what Greiser's planning to do.
It seems that Greiser has managed to regain his composure, but shortly thereafter, he unexpectedly slips through the openings at the top of the bulletproof security dock. The exact method by which he accomplishes this remains unclear due to a gap in the video footage. However, upon closer examination, we can see that the officers contemplate opening the enclosure to apprehend him, but Greiser acts swiftly, outpacing their response. In an attempt to halt his escape, one officer strikes him, but Greiser remains determined and refuses to surrender. The female officer quickly reacts and activates a large button on the wall, signaling for additional support. During Greiser's escape attempt, his pants come off, but the determined officer maintains a strong hold on his leg, refusing to let go. Soon, another officer arrives on the scene. It is evident that these Russian officers are serious and focused on the situation. Once Greiser manages to put his pants back on, he proceeds to make a complete confession for the murder, stating that he feels no remorse for his actions. This is 28-year-old Keith Rio Cavalier, crashing his 1997 Toyota Tacoma into a courthouse. Early morning, Cavalier parked his red truck into a courthouse window at 5:43 a.m. Seemingly stuck inside, he then emerged through the window. Luckily, both he and his casual flip-flops emerged from the situation unharmed. After taking a moment to assess the bizarre scene he had caused, Cavalier simply stood there with an air of nonchalance before eventually strolling away. The silver lining was that the incident occurred on an early Saturday morning, a time when the courthouse remained closed, ensuring no innocent bystanders were harmed. However, the story didn't end there. Law enforcement swiftly apprehended Cavalier shortly after the episode unfolded. When questioned about his inexplicable actions, he surprisingly provided a rationale that made sense to him. He claimed he was attempting to reach the police regarding his stolen drug paraphernalia and believed that this unorthodox method was his best option. As the dust settled, it remained unclear whether Cavalier's efforts had led to the retrieval of his missing items. Nevertheless, his misguided stunt had serious consequences. The charges of malicious mischief and driving under the influence were now added to his list of troubles.
Further, Mr. Knatra.
I would ask that you follow the sentence agreement, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Adams.
Nothing further, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Taylor, is there anything you'd like to tell me before I sentence?
This is Brian Earl Taylor, 21 years old, who is about to be sentenced for charges related to illegal imprisonment and carrying a concealed weapon. The police reported seeing Taylor holding a pistol to a guy's stomach while they were grappling.
Judge O'Brien, my name is Brian Taylor. I would like to start off my speech by saying sorry to the victims.
Judge O'Brien declares that despite how well Taylor performed, the guideline range for his crimes is 50 to 100 months. Taylor is then sentenced to 2 years in jail for carrying a concealed firearm and an additional 18 months to 15 years in prison for illegal imprisonment, regardless of his proficiency. Fortunately, 5 other charges against him are dropped. It seems that his performance did impact the outcome in the end. This is Jesse Rose, a 25-year-old former rugby league player who pleaded guilty to reckless wounding in connection with an attack captured on surveillance camera. Rose and his companion were asked to leave a pub for their inebriated behavior when the event occurred. When they refused, a physical struggle erupted, injuring one of the security guards. Rose flung a glass at the guard, injuring him severely. Despite Rose's attorney's pleas for mercy, Judge Andrew Hassler found the attack to be too serious and sentenced Rose to 14 months in jail. Rose appears to dig on his rugby heritage and aggressively opens a divider door when he is dissatisfied with his punishment. In a fit of rage, he assaults 2 security officers, hurling chairs at them. One guard takes a step back, while another guard rushes from behind and engages Rose in a physical confrontation. Rose is eventually restrained and escorted from the courtroom with the assistance of the guards. His actions resulted in accusations of property damage and assaulting a law enforcement officer, which resulted in an 8-month extension to his original 14-month sentence. This is Lisette Gonzalez, a 46-year-old woman who found herself facing accusations of driving under the influence in Sanford, Florida. The trial concluded with the jury delivering a guilty verdict. However, just before the final judgment is to be rendered, Lisette's defense attorney makes a final appeal to the judge. Despite Officer Wagner's claims that Lisette had tested above the legal limit, the attorney points out a crucial detail. Lisette was never subjected to a breathalyzer or blood test. This raises doubts about the accuracy of the charges against her.
Grant the judgment notwithstanding the verdict.
In an unusual turn of events within the courtroom, Lisette Gonzalez's defense counsel boldly requests that the judge overturn the guilty verdict delivered by the jury and declare Lisette innocent. During their argument, tensions rise as the judge engages in a heated dispute with the prosecution team. The unexpected nature of this request adds an air of tension and anticipation to the courtroom proceedings.
Wait a minute. Did you hear the uncontroverted testimony of this officer?
Your Honor.
Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is not true.
I'm dismissing. I am dismissing this charge.
Taking everyone by surprise, the court makes an unforeseen decision to dismiss the charges against the defendant. Instead, they issue a JOA, which stands for Joint Operating Agreement, indicating an unexpected resolution. But the judge's actions don't conclude there. It seems there's more in store for the courtroom proceedings. The unfolding of events leaves both the legal teams and the audience intrigued about what's to come next.
Now that I consider what Officer Wagner testified to and how many times he basically tripped over himself just to arrest this lady with no real probable cause. You're done. Motion, your JOA is granted.
And you're not going to provide a written order on that?
Nope. You want to appeal me? Appeal me.
Lisette Gonzalez, the individual at the center of the legal proceedings, walks out of the courthouse relieved and unburdened by any charges. With the court's decision in her favor, she is now free from legal obligations and can begin to move forward with her life without the weight of the trial hanging over her.
Free to go, and you are no longer sequestered. Thank you very much.
This are Aubrey Trail and Bailey Boswell. Trail is facing accusations of murdering and dismembering 24-year-old Sydney Loof, whom he lured through an online dating app. Boswell, his alleged accomplice, is charged with criminal conspiracy to commit murder, first-degree murder, and illegal disposal of human skeletal remains. The trial proceeds with the prosecution's next witness taking the stand.
And do you swear or affirm, under penalty of perjury, that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please be seated.
Trail, who had fallen out of his wheelchair, had just tried to slit his own neck with a sharp weapon after declaring his co-defendant innocent. Sheriff's deputies rushed to disarm him.
Bailey is innocent and I curse you all.
Trail is taken to hospital, where they realized he's tried to take his own life, but he was unsuccessful. He is then demanded to stay handcuffed till the very end of the trial.
Disregard the outburst that you heard this morning, and to not consider it in your deliberations at the end of the trial.
2 weeks later, Trail is found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder.
Did I say that right? Yes, sir.
This is Jeremy DeWitt, a 41-year-old who is facing charges related to carrying a concealed firearm. The Orange County Sheriff's Office is intimately familiar with DeWitt's history and background.
Oh, God, not him again. It's Jeremy.
Jeremy DeWitt's criminal history is marred by multiple prior arrests and a previous conviction for impersonating a police officer. DeWitt is the owner of a security firm that specializes in providing escort services for funeral processions. However, it's important to note that he has a track record of misusing this company's services. He has been known to engage in reckless driving through traffic, block intersections, and even confront other vehicles that he perceives as hindering his funeral procession services. Following a period of investigation, law enforcement successfully apprehended DeWitt, resulting in charges filed against him across 2 separate counties. The allegations against him encompass impersonating an officer, as well as failing to properly register as a sex offender. DeWitt initially secured release on bail, but approximately 10 months later, officials managed to locate him once more. During an encounter with a deputy, DeWitt and one of his workers were stopped after the deputy noticed DeWitt seemingly carrying what appeared to be a handgun.
Don't reach for that firearm. Walk away from your bike. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Go down to your knees. Do not reach for that firearm. You're being secure because you're openly carrying a firearm. What? You're openly carrying a firearm.
Carrying a firearm openly is prohibited in Florida. After his arrest, DeWitt finds himself restrained in handcuffs. Subsequently, the deputy makes an attempt to remove DeWitt's helmet, an action that the alleged impersonator officer vehemently resists. Upon learning the cause of his arrest, DeWitt's emotions spiral out of control, and he becomes consumed by rage. DeWitt's frustration with the police is evident, and it appears that he is fixated on a specific matter. Nevertheless, genuine law enforcement professionals are not endorsing or accommodating his demands.
This is not. Are you listening to me? Are you listening to me? I'm a deputy. I'm not an officer. You don't tell me what to do.
DeWitt is apprehended and transported to the police station, where he faces official charges related to carrying a concealed firearm. Yet, further investigation brings to light that the alleged weapon was, in fact, an unloaded pepperball pistol. Consequently, DeWitt's charges are eventually dismissed.
This online identifies it as a Glock, basically a Glock replica. Can you show Russ?
Where can I take you?
Isn't it amazing how nice you guys are when you screw up?
DeWitt's challenges, however, are by no means resolved. Following his recent arrest, his existing bond has been revoked. This mandates that DeWitt must appear before a judge to seek clarification and address the situation.
Yeah, I was on bond. They revoked my bond with a new charge, but that charge was dropped.
He has approximately another 11 other cases, and he's currently first.
Oh, you got a bunch of different cases that are keeping.
Right.
Eventually, DeWitt is released from custody and his bond is reinstated. Nonetheless, he will have to go through a trial for the charge of impersonating a police officer. Should he be found guilty, he could potentially be sentenced to up to 5 years in jail.
Yep.